all know that being a teenager is difficult, but people who have a developmental disorder called autism really face some big challenges. Hi, I'm Lana, and my teenage cousin has autism. He was diagnosed when he was just 3 years old, and now he's 15, so I'm pretty familiar with what it's like for someone to live with autism. He's a really cool guy, but he has a hard time coping sometimes. I know what he's up against, so I know how to help him out. But if you meet someone with autism, maybe in school, you might find that person very different from you, or even hard to understand. In the next few minutes, the families, friends, and teachers of teens with autism will help explain what autism is, and why those who have it act the way they do. We'll hear about autism from friends and family, because autism itself makes it hard for people with it to communicate. First, let's learn what autism is.
I would explain it as a neurological condition in the brain, that the cause is not understood, what causes it, but that the brain is wired very differently, and therefore they think, function, and respond differently than most of us.
Children with autism or Asperger's disorder have a social learning disability. It's the same as if you have dyslexia, which is a reading disability. The expression is, they miss the forest for the trees. And that really means that they miss the big picture and they get stuck on the details of things. So, for example, a child might interrupt the teacher to tell her that she's mispronounced a word when they really should be focusing on the assignment that she's giving out.
A lot of people ask me if there's a cure for autism. There isn't yet. Scientists are doing a lot of research to try to find the causes and a cure for autism. There has been promising research, though, in terms of treatment. Some teens benefit from medications. There are also many kinds of therapy to help people with autism succeed in home, school, or even a job. It's important for people with autism and their families to find ways to live with it, because autism doesn't ever go away. They'll have it for their entire lives. Like the rest of us, teens with autism have strengths as well as weaknesses. Everyone is different, but there are some traits that are fairly common. Difficulty communicating is one of them.
When you have a child that can't express naturally what they're feeling and what they're going through, not only is it frustrating and terrifying and all those emotions for the child, it is also like that for the parents, because you want so much to be able to help them and you want so much to understand what they're going through, and you just can't do it.
Having a child with autism is a lot like having a child that's from a foreign country that doesn't speak the language of their peers, and oftentimes you as a parent don't understand.
Language is often difficult for people with autism. For example, some people with autism may repeat words they just heard, even though it may not make much sense to us. That's kind of a way that they communicate. Difficulty communicating or talking with others is one reason people with autism have a hard time in social situations, but they have other challenges too.
She can sometimes be a little bit too tactile, and she doesn't often understand that you should keep your hands to yourself at this age. And other times she can be very unfriendly toward kids that she's not comfortable with. I think anyone that wants to be a friend of Quinn's needs to be persistent, because it takes her a while to warm up, and oftentimes some of the negative things she says are inappropriate, but it's not deliberate in wanting to hurt someone's feelings.
Excuse me, Matt. Can I have blue?
It's very hard for him to respond to other kids' overtures. And there are non-autistic kids at the school that know him and say, "Hey, Scott," in the hallway, and it's taken many years to get him to answer back, "Hi, Bryant," without a prod or a cue from the teacher.
When he goes through some of his jerky hand motions and repetitive speech, talking about things that they're not going to understand, and sometimes in a loud voice, people get afraid. And there's no need for that. Scott is as docile a child as you'd ever meet.
Teens with autism also experience the world around them differently than we do. Some are really sensitive to certain sensations, like light, sound, and smell. So places like the school hallway or even a shopping mall can be overwhelming. Being bombarded with a myriad of sights and sounds creates a lot of stress. But autism isn't all about challenges. Some people with autism have special strengths, like really strong interest or a hobby, or being really good at certain subjects in school.
I look at many of the students with autism as far as looking at their skills, and it is amazing how creative they are.
But although most teens with autism often have some of the characteristics we've been talking about, every teen with autism is different from each other, and each is unique as the rest of us. We all have different reactions to things, different sensitivities, and different likes and dislikes.
One of my favorite things about Patrick is that he's really funny. He makes me laugh at things he does.
Patrick, are you jumping with Megan? Tell her what? Patrick, you want Megan to jump, please. Say, I want Megan to jump, please. Megan to jump, please. That's it.
Sometimes he makes us all be together as a family just because he likes routine, and he makes us lay down in a circle because he thinks it's calm and relaxing, so it just makes us laugh and it's funny.
Something else we have in common with kids with autism is that we're all teenagers. Being a teen is difficult enough in itself, but teens with autism have even more challenges than the rest of us. For all of us, starting in middle school, there are a lot more changes in a school day. There are different classrooms to find, and several different teachers throughout the day, and a lot more students to get to know because of all the different classes. There are also more papers and books and assignments to organize, and schedules to keep track of, and people with autism tend to have problems with their organizational skills. Abstract thinking, like what you need to write an essay, can also be challenging for a teen with autism, so it can be a bit overwhelming. Some teens with autism have a problem participating in classroom in the same way as their peers. To help them, schools sometimes provide an assistant in the classroom. But even with that help, it can be hard for them to learn in the traditional way.
I find that these kids benefit from a very structured and very routine-oriented environment. And I said I have the schedule posted on the board daily, and my master objectives are posted daily, and that has been critical because they look forward to it every day. They enter the classroom, and they know exactly what they'll be doing each day, every moment of the day.
Patrick's specific challenges at school might be different. Again, I can only answer this to where he is on the spectrum, but it's just like his needs at home. It's communication, it's socialization, and I think the biggest problem he's going to have there is he's used to working and learning in an environment at home in the program that we've had in an area that he's comfortable with and he feels secure in, and he's going to all new people, much more stimulation, sound, echoes in the chambers. You got linoleum halls and concrete things that can help overstimulate a child, especially a child with autism.
We use a lot of different ideas in the classroom to help when they are feeling overwhelmed or frustrated. One of them is an I need a break pass, so this is taped to every desk. We also use different types of cushions on their chairs to provide the sensory input, which also helps them.
So, while everyone learns a little differently and may have trouble in certain subjects, schoolwork can be especially challenging for someone with autism. But for many teens with autism, the hardest part of high school is the part most of us like the best. It's not the classwork, but the hanging out and the going places with friends. As we heard, difficulty communicating and socializing are common for people with autism. So these teens need a little help and a lot of understanding.
It's a disability that affects his brain, it affects how he acts. It's going to affect him his whole life. He's going to be in school a long time with a lot of assistance, and he's never going to really be able to grow up to be the typical adult.
So many challenges to deal with in school and social situations. Teens with autism need a lot of support from their families. My cousin may not say much when we are hanging out, but I make a special effort to include him because it's important for him to feel part of the group and be involved with what we're doing. People with autism may not be like your other friends or people in your family. They may not answer you when you ask them a question, and they may not be able to carry on a conversation the way you and your friends do. But there are things you can do to be friendly.
That to be a better friend is to treat them with as much respect, if not more, than you would anyone on the playground, in your class. And then to try to make them a part of what you're doing.
To other teens who might meet with my brother, I'd say just saying hi would just make his day. He really likes that when people just say hello.
To be a good classmate with Ben, you just need to be understanding. You need to be able to have fun, be able to laugh at some of the things.
Sometimes it can be frustrating for classmates of children with autism or Asperger's syndrome when the student is constantly pointing things out, getting stuck on details, and they can be really annoying because they're not paying attention to the main thing that's going on. And one way to help them is to let them know what's the main thing that's going on, what's the big picture, what should they be attending to, and that'll actually help them the next time so that they don't get stuck in the details.
I wish other people knew that my brother has feelings and that if you make fun of him, it might hurt them. Like, he might not show it, but he does have feelings, and he's different, but he's like us in some ways.
It would be great if teenagers walking in the hall would just say hi to Scott, because even though he might not say anything back, he might realize that he is being appreciated and someone is saying hi to him.
People with autism can't always help the way they behave, but we can. And knowing a little about autism and how people with autism experience the world can help us better relate. After all, what teenager doesn't need a little respect and understanding?
Ow.